David, what is your favorite piece of millennial culture?
So it's actually a novel, Dave. It is Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a beautiful work of fiction, and we'll talk about it more. But what is your favorite piece of millennial culture?
I'm not sure it's my very favorite piece, but I love it, and I'm just going to name it the movie Project X.
I've never seen that, so I would look forward to discussing it more. We are off and running here, though, with Stupid Gen X Tricks, the show for people who used to be cool. We are Dave and David, two guys who've been friends for a long time, starting with when we both worked for Bill Clinton on his first presidential campaign. And on this show, we're taking a break from worrying about the state of the world and politics, and we're talking instead about all of the music and TV and movies and other things that shaped our generation. And really, we're talking about who us Gen Xers are today. So this episode is a cool one. It's the first of our intergenerational dialogue series. Maybe it'll be a series, maybe it won't. But we started with that opening question today because we are talking to an honest to God, real life, expensive coffee drinking millennial.
Our pet millennial? Do we? Yeah. So
I don't know that I'm comfortable with that description, but our millennial friend, let's say our millennial friend of the podcast.
Yes. Okay, good. So that guest is named Arielle Nissenblatt, and she is awesome, and we will tell you more about her soon. But she's a cool podcast person who has helped us out a bit and was nice enough to agree to come on here and represent her generation.
And we've actually already recorded our conversation with her. And Dave, what did we talk about? We helped her understand what a latchkey kid was.
Yes, and we did tweak her about avocado toast, and we covered, and she had a whole bunch of rapid fire questions for us on all kinds of fun Gen X-y things that were news to her. So, and then also serious stuff like 9/11.
Yeah, and we learned about her very unfortunate 9/11 t-shirt, which you'll have to keep listening to find out about. But one of the things that Arielle coached us on was that we should give a rundown at the beginning of the episode about kind of what the run of show is going to be. So I'll tell you this one is pretty straightforward. We're going to flap our gums a little bit here just by ourselves, and then we will bring Arielle on and we'll ask her to respond to some of the things we believe about her generation.
Yes, and I mean, I think we did already give a rundown, but that's a little more rundown.
Yeah.
And then we will give her, this is a new one, we're going to have an additional segment that is the Arielle-led one, and it gives her a chance to fire back at us with some of what she wants to ask us about being Gen Xers. And we get to serve our role as the anointed spokespeople for each and every one of you who was born between 1965 and 1980 and consider us your standard bearers. And after that, we'll finish back up with us yakking, and we'll do wormholes, and then we'll where we tell you something interesting about that we've. What's the past tense of dive? Dove, divin,
Dove.
Okay,
Dove.
We've divin. I like.
Oh
divin.
no, it's dived. Excuse me, it's dived in this.
Dived.
In this
We've
instance,
dived into. Okay, I'm going to go with divin because it sounds really stupid. We've divin into, and then a quick preview of the next episode, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'll go back to enjoying the burning, hot, muggy breezes of an Arkansas summer day.
Well, Dave, I loved your opening question because we want this to be an intergenerational dialogue and not intergenerational warfare. Intergenerational is a difficult word to say, it turns out. The internet, wants all these generations to hate each other, but Dave, we want to bring people together. So what is it that you love about Project X? Was that the name of the movie?
Yeah, that's it. People have contradictions, and one that I have noted that I don't know if I suffer from it or maybe it's just fine. I'm fine with it. But as I was raised a Quaker, and that it means you're a pacifist, and yet I like these violent movies like Terminator. And also, I don't drink, never have. I know I'm weird. I'm sorry about that. I know also that it is more acceptable to be a recovering alcoholic, I've discovered, which I'm not, than to have never been a drinker. Because if you're a recovering alcoholic, you've got a good excuse and you were once cool. But if you've never been a drinker, it's just WTF to most people. So why do I say all this? Because Project X is a movie about teenage party gone completely amok that's actually based on a real thing that happened in Australia. And it is so funny, and it is absolutely the kind of thing I would not have been invited to, nor would I have willingly participated in. I'm just too much of a square. But I love watching the mayhem, and it's so funny and over the top. And so it's got kind of like, it's kind of risky business because it's essentially parents leave the kid at home. The kid swears he's going to just, do homework, and then throws a rager like none that has ever come before. And they even like they actually destroy a real house in the movie because that's what happened. And then they had to rebuild some of the house just because the stuff happening in the movie was so bonkers. There are flamethrowers. There are people diving 4 stories into shallow swimming pools. There's inappropriate behavior of all kinds, and underage drinking, to say the least. So, and drug dealers. So it's outstanding, and I never did any of that.
All right. There you go. Well, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow also talks about things that I've never done any of, but that's video game development. It is a beautiful story about these 2 main characters, and there's some other characters who become very involved anyway, who are lifelong friends who are genius video game developers. And it's a story about romance and love and friendship because they're friends for a long time, even though the male character clearly has a thing for the female character, and I won't spoil the end there. But to me, it in addition to just being a really great read, kind of embodied that generation, both in the idea of these characters who do this thing of video game development and treat it, and everybody else around them treats it really as art and not just commerce. And it's also a lot about people trying to wrestle with identity and with the whole role of work and ambition in your life, and all of these things that I think of as issues that really animate that generation a little bit. But I did discover, I have to admit, just as I was doing a little research at the end here, that it's actually, while I think of it as a very millennial book, it is both a product of and really describes people who are at the very, very tail end of the Gen X spectrum. So maybe I get points deducted from my work here for
You are
that. But
disqualified. You're kicked off the show.
yeah.
And I'm gonna fix this in post, and I'm gonna replace you with an AI.
All right. Well, my backup plan that I was going to say is Superbad, which we actually did end up talking about with Arielle, and it doesn't get much more millennial than Jonah Hill. I don't feel like. So there you go.
Okay, well, that is great, and so we are building bridges here, and we could build so many more if everyone just liked and followed and subscribed.
There will, in fact, be total world peace, Dave, when everybody signs up for our new Substack newsletter, which we will be debuting soon, which will tell you a little bit more about every episode, and probably also contain some worthwhile additional content if we don't revert into being the total slackers we generally are, and don't do too much with it.
I mean, speaking of being slackers, won't the Substack be live by the time this episode is on? So it's not in the future. In the future, we are discussing.
Yes, that's correct.
You're such a slacker. You fail.
No, I just have trouble understanding the process of time moving forward in an irregular fashion. But
it's like we're doing the time warp. So
yeah.
So yes, by now our Substack should have probably 3 or 4 million followers. The now that is the air date of this soon to be classic episode of podcast greatness.
There you go.
Yes. Okay.
And world peace will in fact break out, and that will pave the way for what, Dave?
A golden era where people start sending up skywriting planes to help spread the word about stupid Gen X tricks.
All right. But first, we're going to take a quick break and then bring on our guest. Arielle Nissenblatt is first and foremost a card-carrying member of the Millennial generation, of course, but she is also a podcast guru who's been working in this space since early 2017 when she started a podcast recommendation newsletter, Earbuds Podcast Collective. We'll give you a link to that somewhere around here. And since then, she has managed podcast studios, worked as an in-app curator. I don't even know what that means. Gone to school for audio production, produced several podcasts, run successful marketing and PR campaigns for hundreds of shows, organized podcast communities on Twitter, Discord, and Slack, and so much more. So take a quick break and then we'll jump right into it.
Yeah, when we get all those like big sponsors, we can have her do all those things for us, and then we'll go from 3 million followers to 500 million followers.
All right, we're gonna start getting into that big Jason Bateman money.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Get a color TV or a Sony Betamax or a TV video game. Get it now, because Crazy Eddie can't be beat. With prices so low, he's practically giving it all away. Shop around, get the best prices you can find. Then go to Crazy Eddie, and Crazy Eddie will beat him. Remember, Crazy Eddie guarantees you the largest selection, professionally staffed service centers, and the guaranteed lowest prices. Crazy Eddie, his prices are insane.
Welcome, Arielle. So as you know, we typically start off by asking our guests to tell us the first, and here's a word you might not know, album they ever bought. But have you ever actually even bought an album or paid for music at all?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So where did you start?
I have. Well, first, I was born in 1992, so music was still purchasable for much of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a CD, and I'll talk about that momentarily, but I think I even have memories of my mom putting in cassettes in the car. Is that possible in the late 90s? Yeah.
If you had an older car, absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say Jewel.
Okay.
Jewel
was a cassette that we had, and then in terms of a CD that I bought myself, No Strings Attached. Was that Backstreet Boys or NSYNC? Whichever of the two.
You're asking.
Can't tell
you
them
are
apart.
definitely asking the wrong people on that one.
Barking up the wrong tree.
Yeah.
they are interchangeable.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah. All right.
I agree.
Okay. Well, that's good. So now.
Wait. So hold on, Jewel. I can't let that just slide right away.
She was good.
She was good.
Alaskan.
Good.
Yeah.
Alaskan. Yes. I have all kinds of Jewel history. I have a photo of me with Jewel on the Choose or Lose bus that I will now insert into the episode when I go dig it
there.
up. Yeah, right there. Right where you pointed,
Nice.
I will put it. And I also saw her before her first album came out in DC, David, at this little club. I forget. Well, it was kind of a restaurant and also a club.
Where?
Arielle, I don't know if you have DC history. So I lived at 16th and R, and that's I think it was at the corner of 17th and R, and it was like an upstairs restaurant. I want to say it was like
I can't
something South American. Yeah, and there was a record store, CD store kind of place that had recently opened. Like it just opened in the neighborhood, so this would have been 2000, I think, because I'd moved back to DC. And no, wait, 2000, no, it wasn't. No, it would have been my first go around in DC. So this was 93, 94, 95.
I am not picturing that at all. Anyway,
it's not a place that you would have thought of as a place to go see acts, but her record hadn't come out. There was an advance at this little subterranean CD shop on 17th Street, down towards P, I think, and the guy's like, "Oh, there's this new artist coming. She's going to be playing like tonight or tomorrow night. You should go see her." And I went, and she yodeled, and I hated her. And so I always hated Jewel. Yes, and I knew there was this whole cool story, and Sean Penn, and living in a car, and all this stuff. But the yodeling was so like uber cringe that I couldn't get over it until. Then, and I'd complain about her. And then like at MTV, I interviewed her. Then she came on the bus, or vice versa. She was so sweet, and she was so nice. And then you had to like her, even though I was not into the music.
I guess it is technically yodeling, but I don't think of it that way.
No, but she does have that. She has that like kind of thing to her. Yeah.
No,
but she also was trained to yodel.
Wow.
She knows how to yodel, and she will yodel for you.
That is a skill.
Like, it's. I don't know if it's recorded or not, but she did it, and it made me crazy.
I just remember actually running into her in a bar during the 1996 Democratic Convention in Chicago,
Oh my
Dave,
God.
with our mutual friend, who you insist on calling Joel, who was, I just remember him being as agog as a human being can possibly be at this woman's appearance. So that
She was that
is
famous then?
no,
96?
not at her fame, but
Oh.
at her attractiveness.
Oh,
But
wow. Agog.
agog, and that's our boy
Question.
who doesn't listen to the show, so we can just talk about him at will.
May I ask questions about the 96 Democratic Convention?
You're getting ahead of
Sure.
yourself, but sure.
Okay, yeah. We'll come back to it.
All right.
That's a teaser.
Okay. All right. Well, since we've got all that squared away now, here is the plan for the episode, Arielle, is a lot of people in our view would like to pit our generations against each other, but we're all about building bridges. We want to bring people together. So we're going to give you a chance to answer, maybe some of the stereotypes, some of the myths that people our age might have about the millennials, and then you'll get a chance to throw that back at us. And look, either it works and we will have achieved the harmony that the world needs, or it doesn't and we'll have made things worse. But either way, it hopefully will be fun.
Yeah, it'll be entertaining.
Do you think that intergenerational warfare makes doves cry?
I've never quite understood what makes doves cry, or if they're biologically capable of it. But I like the song nonetheless. So
Yeah, we may have just had our first over her head moment of
I've
generational
heard
reference.
the lyric,
okay, good.
but I
okay,
don't know
see?
what it is referring to. Like I could clock that it was a song, but yes, you're right. Correct. First, let's have a counter. That's number one.
All right.
Outstanding. Okay, so I'm going to start by uttering two words that seem to produce millennial rage when spoken by condescending old
I
timers.
can't wait.
Avocado toast. We hear you people complaining about how you can't afford to buy homes. David wrote that.
It's got to be though, you people. Yeah.
Complaining about how you can't afford to buy homes or whatever, but that's because you waste all your money on expensive brunch. How do you respond?
It's avocado toast, and then it's like the Starbucks habit, right? There's so much more that goes into why we can't buy homes. However, avocados, I will say I treat myself a fair amount. And I think that there is definitely a culture of treat yourself that is inherent to millennials. Before even the character Tom Haverford on Parks and Recreation coined the phrase treat yourself, I think we're just very happy to, like, oh, you deserve a little sweet treat. That's a big thing. And I'm not saying that is the reason that a lot of people complain that they can't afford houses, but that's me sort of submitting to, yeah, you know what? I did get ice cream today before I had lunch. I didn't need it before I had lunch in the middle of the day, and I'll probably have it again tonight, but I wanted it, so I had it, I don't love avocado personally on its own. I love guacamole. Avocado itself, I think hugely overrated. And in terms of getting a coffee, for some reason, why is it better outside of the house? Do you feel that way?
I don't, because we have a good coffee maker at home. And
well,
buy
maybe
good
that's
coffee.
it. I don't have a home to have a coffee maker.
There you go. And I will.
Just kidding. I live in an apartment.
I will just go out on the record that I really like avocado toast when it's done properly, which it often isn't. But that's just a thing.
It's often not.
Yeah.
It basically should be mashed. It should be guacamole on bread, I feel. And then sometimes maybe a few cheeses or tomatoes or pickled red onions or something like that. But often it's just slices of avocado, and I don't want that.
Oh, I like it sliced. I've had it where they just give you like a glot, like they just take a piece of crappy toast and put, just take a half an avocado and put it on there without doing anything to it. And
that's not what I want.
I'm not paying $27 for that.
It is. The upcharge is crazy.
I'm still stuck on ice cream. What kind of ice cream did you have, and what are your favorites?
Thank you for asking. Coffee ice cream, Haagen-Dazs.
That's good
it's
stuff.
It's the best.
in my youth, in a time a long time ago, far away, I worked at a health food store, which was one of the first of its kind, I believe. But I couldn't be paid because I was underage. So instead, I was paid in Haagen-Dazs.
Wow.
I'd go home with
So
Haagen-Dazs every night,
the
and
health
then my
food
mom
store
would.
was paying you an ice cream.
Yeah, and I got my body by
All
Jake
right.
by doing
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah,
Wow.
great.
yeah.
I have questions
Mom
about the
would pay me
logistics. How much ice cream?
each night.
Yeah. Like, did you get multiple
Sam,
tubs?
oh, it was just those little pints, and I don't think I ever got earned more than one of them.
That means
And
that
then
you
my
were
mom
worth
would
like
pay me like,
$4 per night.
yeah,
And I'm adjusting
yeah,
for
well,
inflation or deflation.
yes, yeah, I can't remember all the math. Maybe it was more than one, but I don't think so. But I don't think I was full time there. I think I did like a weekend, a Saturday, and well, I have no idea. It's been so long, but it was Sam's Health Foods, right next to Flat Black and Circular, which is a legendary record shop in East Lansing. So
Wow.
shout out to a long ago, far away.
Still very much
health
in
food.
business, I imagine. I'm just
Flat
kidding.
Black and Circular. No, FBC is still in business. I could have worn their T-shirt today.
Wow.
They Sam's didn't last much longer than I worked there. That guy was completely incompetent. He left me alone in the store, but wouldn't tell me how to use the cash register. So people would come in and try to buy stuff, and I'd be like, I can't cash you out, and they'd be like, oh, okay, bye, and then they'd leave and not buy anything.
Well, Dave, you could have worn the T-shirt, but you went for the Steve Jobs look instead, and that's where we are. Let's move on, and here are another two words that probably ought to come with a trigger warning for millennials, and that's participation trophies. If you've been listening to the podcast and heard our Ashley Merriman episode, you'll know that it's pretty much an object of faith, and I think it's a subject that comes up a lot among us geezers. That when kids were growing up these days, everybody gets a trophy for everything they ever sign up for and do, and as a result, they show up in the workplace and they just want everything handed to them on a platter. They don't want to pay their dues. They don't want to do all the crap and put up with all the crap that we did. What do you think about that?
A few things. One, would you want to put up with that crap again?
No, I'll be honest. I actually sort of admire the unwillingness to put up with some of the crap that we put up with.
Right. Exactly. So here's my thought. Gen Z is younger than me, and now they're in the workforce. And we millennials are feeling a similar way to, I imagine, how you felt when millennials entered the workforce, which is that Gen Z doesn't want to work. They keep standing up for themselves, basically. Like, I'm not going to do that bullshit thing for that meager amount of money. And I think a lot of us feel the same way, which is like, that's annoying. And also I'm jealous. And I just think that this happens every single time. And I feel like that's going to be the underlying lesson here, but no spoilers. And I remember when I first started, my mom warning me that, her generation worked really hard. She's a boomer. And she works in HR also. So she's seen a lot of different age groups come of age in the workplace. And, she kind of warned me, like, it's very easy to want to just clock out at 5 p.m., but you want to show that you're sticking it out a little bit longer, that you really care about the organization that you're working for. And I think there's a balance. I think it's important to do that to an extent, but I also think, like, they're only paying you a certain amount and they do not really care about you beyond the fact that they need to pay you a paycheck, and hopefully they want you to have a good quality of life. But ultimately, like, even when that CEO was murdered, the job posting for his position was up pretty quickly after that, because our companies really are focusing on money. They don't really care about us, right? So ultimately, I think it's an interesting balance of, like, show that you care, show up, be a good participant, be a good coworker, I think is a really big part of it. Like, don't make things harder for your fellow office mates, especially if they're your friends. But also, like, clock out when it's time to clock out, because you need to go live your life. And I think that I try to do that And I know Gen Z is just very good at it, and I'm jealous.
I mean, I'm a little jealous of it. At the same time, I will say, and this is the advice that I give to my Gen Z kids. There is something we said, not that you need to care about an organization that doesn't care about you, but that part of how you establish yourself and get ahead for yourself, and also part of how you
Right.
learn and grow, as a professional, is being the person who is willing to stick around and see what needs to be done, and then have the opportunity to, have the conversation with your boss at 7:30 at night that would be very different from the conversation
As
that
you
you'd be
stuck
having
around.
early. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said for, not out of a belief that, Widget Co. gives a crap about your life, but out of the belief that you give a crap about your life. There's
And you
value
want to
to.
rise up at Widget Co.
Yeah.
But also, I think the difference here is there's people who leave right at 5 every day and don't really care that they're not getting the promotions and that all their peers are moving up and they're kind of staying in the same place because they have a really fulfilling life outside of work. And then there's the people who leave at 5 and then are still complaining
Right.
that they're not getting the promotions.
Yeah.
Right. So the difference is like, do you have the self-awareness that you're not moving up because you're not doing the things that would make you move up? Or are you just, going to the job for, getting a paycheck, which is fine if that's what you want.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. And I think there does seem to be a greater willingness among younger people to just sort of admit to the fact that
Right.
they don't have that ambition.
Quiet quitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
There is still something to the critique that does matter. Like, if you want to just sort of jump to the head of the line in terms of more senior responsibilities and you don't understand how the sausage is made because you didn't come in and learn how to make sausage, it does create problems in an organization and for you as a professional if you're just trying to come in and be in charge instead of learning how things work.
And there definitely are people that do that. There definitely are people who kind of are not students of the craft, right, before they try to craft the institution themselves. But I think for the most part, if you have ambitions to be a leader in whatever field you're in, hopefully there's a little bit of passion that comes along with it. Maybe not for that field specifically, but maybe for being a leader. Maybe you're just motivated by that prospect. And I think that I'm 32 now, and I think that millennials who might have expected everything to be delivered on a silver platter for them at the beginning of their careers are realizing at this time that either they needed to flip a switch and do some work and really show up and be there past 5:30, or they've realized that they're going to find fulfillment elsewhere and their jobs are just going to be jobs. Hopefully. I mean, this is probably not the case everywhere, but that's kind of how I look at it, and at least how I've come across a bunch of people that I've had networking chats with over the years.
And AI is going to replace us all soon anyway. So
yeah, this is a moot point. All of this.
Yeah.
All right, so moving beyond stereotype, let's talk about culture, and we'll make it easier for you. What do you think is the defining millennial movie and artist?
Oh my,
musical artist.
That's great. It's a great question. I wonder if you asked an elder millennial if it would be different. So I'll give you, I think Mean Girls is huge for my specific breed of millennials. It came out when I was in middle school. So we were probably a little too young to watch it, but we watched it and then quoted it for the next 10 years, and it's still extremely quotable.
It was 2005, I want to say, 2006,
I think it came out. Yeah, and it's Amy Poehler before she was really Amy Poehler. Yeah. It's really,
it's a great movie.
It's Tina Fey. Yeah. It's a movie that delivered us so many quotes to this day. Superbad is another really big one, I think. Mm-hmm. Superbad and Knocked Up, I think they came out around the same time, and they sort of have similar vibes to me because a lot of the actors are crossover. sort of like the Judd Apatow cinematic universe, I think was big at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a phrase I
Which
hadn't
I have
heard.
to admit,
like that.
I think of as a very, even though, I mean, Superbad, like, it's funny, they did come out around the same time. I think of Superbad definitely as Millennial because that's like the Jonah Hill movie, right? Or the Jonah Hill, Michael Cera movie.
The other one's a
Whereas
little
not,
older.
even though it is like he's in that one also, I think of Knocked Up as being very Gen X.
Yeah, I see that. I see that. The actors are playing the next stage of life,
Right.
right? It's Leslie Mann being a parent and Katherine Heigl becoming a parent. Yeah, I see that. They came out around the same time and they had similar crude jokes, and therefore they were quotable to us. And by us, I mean me and my friend Samantha, who still to this day speak to each other pretty much exclusively in movie quotes from these movies. Oh, and also Just
That is
Friends. Just Friends. Who's that with? Ryan Reynolds and Anna Faris.
Okay, I haven't seen all of these, so I'm
great
gonna have to catch a
movie.
couple.
I
of
don't
them.
know if I've seen Just Friends. Yeah.
It's
And
so good.
So David and I were talking about Mean Girls, which I haven't seen, so that's going to be one that I need to watch. But I was under the impression that it was basically a reboot of our generational equivalent, Heathers. Are you familiar with Heathers?
I just started watching Heathers recently. I want to say like a year and a half ago. I was on a date and this guy was like, "You have to watch Heathers." So we like watched Heathers, and it was so weird. It is a weird movie. I will say we didn't make it all the way to the end of the movie because he had to leave because I did not like this man. But we started and I was like, something is off here, which is the purpose of the movie. But in Mean Girls, it's very mainstream. It's not artsy. It's very much like, this is a popular group. This is a not popular group. Let's maybe bridge that gap. Let's play around with those themes, but that's it. Heather's, I think, was like surreal and like abstract and artsy, right? Like,
Yeah.
am I wrong?
No.
Yeah, this was definitely not that.
Yeah.
But I guess thematically, yeah, it's about high school. It's about popular chicks. So there's that.
And revenge on them. Also, when I watched Euphoria, I felt like it had echoes of Heathers.
I can see that.
Especially just the darkness and the inappropriate adults. Although I don't think Heather's adults were quite where the Euphoria adults went. But anyway, okay. Well, glad to hear that.
Oh, and you asked about an album?
Yeah.
Or a musical artist.
A music Beyonce? I don't know. She's still big, and she's big also among other generations. But just Destiny's Child into Beyonce was huge.
Yeah.
I think. And really, it feels like she's been in the scene for so long because she has. And I know a lot of people whose first concerts were Beyonce. I know a lot of people whose first albums were Beyonce, all that. So she's definitely huge. Another millennial artist would be, I mean, of course, there's Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, but like when we look back on these things, they really only existed for like 4 years. I don't know, probably a little bit longer than that. But it's like I was just listening to a podcast called Who Weekly, and they were talking about the artist Tattoo. You know, the Russian two women who. They had like a few hit songs, and the whole like gimmick was that they were dating each other, and it was so crazy because it was the year 2002 and like they were lesbians who were making music. And then it turned out much later that it was actually like a psyop from Russia, and they weren't actually lesbians, but they pretended to be for like the gaze of Americans, GAZE of Americans. And then recently a fake apology letter was leaked because they said something homophobic, and then they came back and they were like, no, sorry, that's not our apology letter, we're still homophobic. And I just think all of this is very interesting.
That's an approach.
And then the hosts of this show were like, and all of that happened in 1 year. So like
Wow.
it's like an outsized influence, all of these things just from memory.
And it's funny, I have to say, like when you do talk about generational splits, I've never heard of them. I never heard any of this story.
You're like, what did she just say for 2 minutes?
Yeah. All right.
I have a vague memory of
So
them.
let's go from there. We also just wanted to ask, and this will, I think, be the last question before the table turning happens, but sort of who you think of as the icons of your generation. I will say I looked at sort of a list that somebody had, and the first two who jumped out at me were Mark Zuckerberg and Kanye, who I think of as pretty
Whoa.
terrible people. But then I also saw
Yeah.
Steph Curry and Emma Stone, who both of whom I think are pretty awesome. So who
Should
do
these
you
people
think of?
be
People of
Sorry, go ahead.
people of the millennial age who
Okay.
who in some way exemplify what it means to be a millennial.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, is Kanye West a millennial? I feel like he's Gen X.
Yeah, he's older,
I
isn't he?
I
This is not the point.
This is not the point. He was on a list. Is
Yeah.
all I can tell you.
Okay,
I don't know.
I've got a few.
The internet
And
says he is, so
I'm not listing these people necessarily because I think that they are iconic or role models or anything, but maybe because they are iconic actually. Like Kim Kardashian is just so well known
yeah.
as a millennial, formed so much culture. The Keeping Up with the Kardashians, all of the stuff that happened around them. She influenced her entire family to
Created
be
sort
the
of a
huge
whole new
name.
category of famous person, right?
Influence, yeah,
yeah,
just like famous for doing nothing.
right.
That's them. They originated that, the Kardashians. So it would be, I think I would be mistaken not to mention them here.
Is she real? Wait, are the Kardashians related to the Jenners, or do they
Yes.
just seem kind of
No,
ubiquitous?
no.
Yes.
So that's interesting because Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn, formerly Bruce was like kind of like that for our generation.
Really? I know,
Well,
because
no,
Because
he
of
was
swimming.
famous. No, well, decathlon.
No. Oh, triathlete.
Which,
Yeah, sorry.
because famously decathletes, dominate mass culture, but somehow he,
I believed you. I was like, of course.
but he did. Like he was from the. We didn't talk about him in our 1976 discussion, I don't think, or about her now.
Yeah.
But that was like a big win at the Montreal Olympics.
Interesting.
It wasn't just a big win at the Olympics. Bruce Jenner became the most famous person in America, as far as I could tell.
Wow.
And had that outsized influence, and all the kids wanted to be Bruce Jenner.
Wow.
Back then, the breakfast cereal Wheaties was actually significant, and the people who were given the they would put celebrities on the front. Usually, I think athletes, and yeah, always athletes. So if you made the cover of Wheaties, you had made it as an athlete. That's I don't know what the modern equivalent of making the Wheaties box is, but Bruce Jenner
like
on the Wheaties
being given
box.
a podcast by Spotify. You now have a podcast.
Yeah, it's just like that. Yeah, so you could probably go to eBay and search Bruce Jenner Wheaties, and you would get like a bunch of hits with those old boxes that everyone wanted.
Interesting intergenerational crossover there.
Yeah.
Familially. Indeed. Yeah, Kardashians, Jenner's huge. I'm like thinking back to 2006 to 2010 when I was in high school, because I feel like when a lot of the culture gets formed for your generation. I mean, for me, this is not a person, but an event, 9/11, huge for us, huge for the millennials. Yeah, so depressing, but I think about it a lot.
I mean, I don't think I don't think that's generational, although like having it happen when you were the age you were, it hits in a very different way.
I think it was like, I know it's shocking for everyone. It's not like it was uniquely shocking for, what were we, like probably 6 years old to 17 years old, I think is the millennials at the time. Yep. I was 8. And I think the reason it was so shocking is because like I knew enough to know that it was bad and scary, but I did not know enough to not freak out. So I was terrified of anthrax like all the time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know how to not be scared of anthrax because I didn't know any media literacy as an 8-year-old in order to like know what sources to dissect and to not look into. So, and I think that's the case with a lot of people. It's just like being scared and not really knowing how to parse that scaredness.
How did they, on the day of, I don't think I've ever talked to anyone about this actually.
Oh, you're going to love this. I have the best story.
In elementary school, and you're in in the New York area. Like, how did they handle it on the day?
Okay, thank you so much for asking. I have the best story ever here. I went to a Jewish day school in Westchester, just north of the city, and it was Hadavar Hanachon Day, which means do the right thing day. So I have a shirt that says Do the Right Thing Day, September 11, 2001. And so, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I know. It has like a tree of life on it,
Mhm.
and then the date, and then the Hebrew words, Hadavar Hanachon, and then do the right thing. And so that whole day up until it got ruined, we were like doing good deeds. We were like planting trees and like other types of things like that, like learning about the mitzvah of charity and things like that.
Oh my gosh.
And then all of a sudden, one girl, Allie, got pulled out of class, and we were like, huh, that's weird. She never gets pulled out of class. What's up with that? And then a few other kids got pulled out of class. And then I saw the teachers whispering to each other. And I think rumor has it that the older kids, got to sit and like have a TV wheeled into their room so they could like watch the news. But the younger kids, I think, were mostly being distracted. Most people got picked up early. I went home. They wouldn't let you off the bus unless your parents were there to pick you up. My parents came home wearing sneakers. They never wear sneakers because they were like running in the city. And that was fascinating. And those are my memories.
Wow.
I know. That shirt is crazy.
That is
To this day,
crazy.
I really want to do a podcast version, like an oral history retelling of who thought it was a good idea to do Hadavar Hanachon Day and then like what they thought about their beautiful genius idea. It's so funny.
wow.
Ugh.
Wait, can you explain the running shoes and running in the city?
My parents had, my mom specifically would wear heels at the office, but would wear sneakers if like she needed to get somewhere fast between things or like on her commute. And I just remember coming home and she was still wearing her sneakers, which meant that she didn't have like a minute to like change back into her shoes. That for some reason it felt significant that she was rushing out of the city.
And did you hear any? Did they have how close?
No,
were
they
your
were in
parents
Midtown,
to-
but I think it was just a scramble in general to get people on trains and out.
Whew,
And you better believe
man.
that I did not understand the geography of Midtown at the time, and I thought it was right there.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So did it ever come to mind that your parents were in danger?
I don't think so because they came home right when I got home, which meant I didn't know the extent of what had happened in the city. So I didn't know that.
It was all past
Yeah,
tense. It wasn't.
yeah. So I was like, okay, they are physically here. That's great. But then I accidentally watched the news that night, and that was a mistake. Yeah.
And then was school canceled?
No. But I remember
Okay,
sitting on the bleachers with a kid the next day, like staring up at the sky and being like, why? Why would they do this? And we were like we were like 8 years old contemplating like bad people and like why people do bad things. And I like still have this memory and I wonder if he does.
Yeah. Wow. Whew. Okay. Well, all right. I think it is time to take a quick break and come back and let you, Arielle, drive the
can't
car
wait.
for a bit.
I can't wait.
All right.
And just so you know, my friend is going to make fun of me because at any chance I bring up 9/11. So I had to.
Okay. There you go. All right. So
All right. Well, then let's go to
right.
break.
The legendary superhero Godzilla and Jenna of the Jungle fighting evil.
You can take him!
The Godzilla Power Hour. Then the Fantastic Four, the greatest of comic book heroes. Saturday morning's a great place to be starting September 9th on NBC.
And without any further ado, Arielle, the floor is yours. What do the millennials want to know?
I have a lot of questions because I feel like there are a lot of phrases I've heard that I don't understand. There's a lot of movie references that have been batted about throughout my years that I'm supposed to know, but I never had older siblings. So I lost out on a lot of that. And there are also just some like phrases that I don't understand. Like, can we just start with this? What does latchkey mean?
latchkey kids. So when we were kids, and I was a latchkey kid. I think Dave, you were too. Right. We were sort of the
So
first generation where it was pretty common that both of your parents were going to be working outside of the home,
That's what
and
it was. Okay.
people didn't have other arrangements made, so you had a key when you got home to unlock the door, which I had to wear because I kept losing them. They made me wear it on a string around my neck, which was really cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Latchkey, I always thought was a last name. Like before you see something written down and you think it's like just you just have it by word of mouth. I was like Latchkey kid. That sounds like a Jewish last name.
It does
He's a latchkey
actually.
kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I was not a I had a babysitter who was kind of like, so she was usually around when I got home, but my parents weren't there. But sometimes I'd come home to an empty house, but not very often.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. Maybe the best way to do it is, can I ask one question, one of you answers it, another question, then the other one of you answers it, unless you have like something really good to say about that story?
Yeah. We'll keep it moving.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here's my question, because it could go on forever. What was your relationship with your landline phone? Did you fight about it with your siblings and parents?
Is this my
It's your
turn?
turn.
Okay. I did not have siblings who were especially close in age. They were mainly on to college or gone. So the fighting over the phone wasn't too fierce, unless it was really between my mom and I. But yes, we had a landline phone, and how long I could remain on it was a source of arguing, especially if someone else needed to use the phone. We did not have call waiting. That came later.
How did that work? Does that mean
would
it just
click.
goes straight to voicemail or something?
No, you didn't have voice.
No,
You get a busy signal.
There's no, yeah.
What is
No,
call
no.
waiting?
Well, call waiting was probably a late 80s modernization where you'd hear some kind of sound that would overlay on your conversation without cutting it off, and you knew that someone was dialing in, so it wasn't giving them a busy, but it would ring endlessly for them, and if you wanted to pick it up, you would hit the clicker down once and it would flip it over to the other line,
And you could say,
and then you hit the clicker again to flip back.
I'm on call waiting, or I'll get you
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
But we never had that because my parents were like, we never had that.
Do you pay for that, or it just like came?
Yeah, it was
okay.
extra.
Fascinating.
It was extra on the phone bill. The other thing, because where the phone is matters a lot. Like we had two phones in the house. One was in our downstairs kitchen. One was in this upstairs kind of office that belonged to my mom. And they were both proximate to my bedroom, which is where I wanted to be on the phone. So my parents couldn't listen in. Not that anything especially interesting was happening on these phone calls, but then, so the length that the existing cable was quite important. And also, it wasn't just the cable from the wall to the back of the phone. It was also about from the phone to the handset. And so the coolest thing that I got that my friends were jealous of was extensions on both of those at Radio Shack, which comes up a lot in Sheldon. What was that Sheldon show that my kids loved?
Big Bang Theory?
No, the one where
Young
where little Sheldon. Young Sheldon, which is a great show, and has some great. We should have someone from that show on our show. That would be kind of perfect talking about that. Anyway, so Radio Shack, it was where young Sheldon loved to go shopping and for his nerdy things, and that was a great place to get phone extensions, cord extensions, and all of that. So the phone in the kitchen could reach all the way into my room, like 40 feet away, or 30 feet away, and that was awesome.
Wow, ultimate privacy phone situation.
Yes.
All right, what's next?
Question on that. Well, this just stemmed from that. Did you have one of those phones that was a rotating dial?
Yes. Yeah.
Is that the only thing that you had for a while?
Yeah, I don't think touch tone came in until late 70s, maybe early 80s. And we didn't have, I don't think we ever had one in my childhood. I think we always had a rotary dial phone. Yeah, it was no fun.
How do you dial somebody fast in that situation?
You don't.
You don't. Wow.
You just can't.
The pace was
And
just-
also, You'd
Different.
also be jealous of people with, like, I remember being jealous of my friends with numbers that were in the first 4 or 5
You
digits,
go
right?
all the way around
So
for the 9.
yeah, so right. So our phone number had some really good numbers, but it had a couple problematic numbers. It was 337.
He's telling us everything.
Yeah, see, I got to stop doing this. So it was something like that, and then some low numbers, and then a high number. So the 3s, the 2s, the 1s, those are all
Those are
great.
fine.
But the 7, the 0, those were not great. You had to wait, and I feel like that affected something that actually mattered. It also mattered if you were calling into radio stations to try to win
Of
stuff.
course.
Because if the station had high numbers and you had a rotary phone, you were up against the people who had the push button phones who could 555
Right, you're so
1212
screwed.
like done. Yeah. So you could only make 3 calls.
And also,
Or you could
it's
plan.
not-
I had a friend of mine from college who made a whole, when she was in high school, made a whole game out of winning the contests on the radio.
Wow.
And one of the things she explained was she came to understand the timing of when they would do the contests. And so you could dial the first 6 digits of the number, a minute ahead of time, and then just wait. Yeah.
Wow.
But sometimes it would disconnect you. Like if you took too long to hit the last number, like if the announcer takes a little too long, then it goes click, click, and you're like, God damn it. Because I remember doing that. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I think
one thing, I got to give a shout out to my friend David Pearson, my old friend. I just got to visit with him. He lives in New Zealand.
Wow.
And he and I had this thing where we would close our eyes. We would hit the number 1, then close. I did have the what was the one for the push button phones? What were they called?
Touchtone.
The touchtone, which also made different sounds, so you could make little tunes out of them, like with the piano. So we would hit 1, then close our eyes and just hit a bunch of numbers, and then see where you called.
Fun.
And that was always interesting, and try to talk up the person that answered. I always wanted to get to another country, but I never did.
That's probably a good thing for the phone bill.
Yes.
Yes. Also, there were 976 numbers back in the day.
What do you mean?
Have we talked about this, David?
So the 976 numbers, which came in, I think when I was in high school anyway, I think you might have been in middle school still, were an innovation that they were basically paid services so that you could call and get sports scores or
that's awesome.
It was basically like the internet before the internet was. You could make a phone call and hear a recording.
My friend Lauren has a podcast company, a podcast marketing company, and a few years ago she started a thing called 1-800-POD-AT-ME, PODATME. You can call it, and it gives a recommendation every day, just like that.
Oh, that's
more
cool.
things like that should still be used.
They might be giants. I think still do their song of the day hotline. I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
So smart.
That's been around.
For 40 years. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize they were around for that long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Crazy.
They did the Disney Clubhouse song, which was which is wild. And I booked them at Oberlin. So the 976 number, okay, I think I can tell this quickly. Patrick Regan, the little brother of my friend Mike from elementary school. Patrick was kind of a troublemaker, and I was a troublemaker. Mike was we were all troublemakers.
Or
and
bad kids.
Younger siblings were bad kids, yes. And so 976 numbers that I learned were for just what David said, sports scores. I wanted to hear whether the Tigers were ahead, whether the Pistons were ahead, all the Detroit teams. And so you couldn't check on your phone to see who was winning. The only way to know is wait till listen to it live on the radio, or if it happened to be on TV, or wait till next morning and read the newspaper. And I know it's like barbarians. And but the 976 numbers solved that. Like you could call in and they'd be re-recording the live scores. So it's like with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, the Detroit Pistons lead the New York Knicks, 97 to 93,
awesome.
and then you call back 10 minutes later. It's like
it's over.
With 2 minutes left.
Right, of course.
The
goes
Knicks
on forever.
lead the Pistons.
It was $1 a call or something like that. Like it wasn't cheap.
It depended.
Yeah.
It was a set number,
Yeah.
and yes, I got in trouble because I was calling so much, and they were 50 cents a call,
Jeez.
Yeah.
and my parents did not give me permission. So also, but then this is the other thing on the sports, what's the page with all the scores? What's that called? The scoreboard page in the sports
Yeah.
section. There was, the Detroit Free Press had their dial up number 976-1313, I
Nice.
believe, and 313-976-1313. But then some enterprising, I don't know, was it like some kind of porn thing basically started being advertised where there was a number where you call and it's like women talking dirty, like, ooh, baby, and then like doing all this stuff. And those cost more than 50 cents a call. And I did it once to hear it. And also because it was funny to know. And then I told Mike Regan, this is where the story goes. I told Mike Regan about it. And he goes home and tests it, and he thinks it's hilarious. And then he tells his little brother Patrick, who's in first grade, and Patrick runs up like a $200 bill. This first grader calling in for porn. And then I was banned from their house forever after.
Oh my God, you were a bad kid.
I was a bad kid, and it was my fault that Patrick ran up the $200 bill calling porn as a first grader.
That's so unfair.
Yeah, I'm going to put this on Facebook and see if any Regans can reach out.
I have more questions. May I?
Yeah, go for it.
I could go on all day. This is fascinating. Everybody should do this all the time with generations. Okay. What was your version of doom scrolling as a teenager?
There wasn't really a version of doom scrolling as a teenager.
How did you just like tune out?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, you would watch whatever happened to be on TV. So that's why like everybody in our generation has seen 70 million Brady Bunch episodes. Not that anybody ever really liked the Brady, other than Dave,
No, but
who
I
wasn't
have
allowed to watch TV.
Brady.
It was just what was on and you would watch, or you would, I'm going to say something maybe shocking here, but you would read a book.
Wow.
Or a magazine.
Was there doom books though? Would there be a book for you to read that would be like, I'm doing this even though I know it's bad? You know, like maybe magazines or something.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
well there were.
Like, you know how people doom scroll and it's like, I shouldn't be continuing to do this, but I'm going to.
I think that was more the TV. I think that was more just watching whatever crap was on TV at the time.
Yeah. You're like, I should get up and like make dinner or whatever, but I'm gonna sit here.
Yeah.
I shouldn't, but it's because in a way your question is if you needed to zone out and just do something that you knew in the abstract was not helping you get to a better place in the world, what was the activity of choice in that moment as a kid, right? Is that kind of what you're saying? And I'm not sure anything really qualifies. I mean, maybe eating was a thing, but that's still a thing.
Yeah.
And watching MTV was a little bit like that because MTV was so ubiquitous and you didn't have to think to just watch music videos. So that was often the background noise of any home of a teenager. Now, David is slightly older, and so it wasn't quite as it was formative in middle school when I think that really matters. But I'm just trying to think, like, what would it have been aside from TV?
Yeah, I don't think it was any. I mean, I think
it's possible that there's no equivalent.
You know,
I mean,
going to the park in a way, like that's actually kind of good.
That is good.
You would just, it was like, but it wasn't done to be intentionally healthy.
Right.
It was like you're bored, there's nothing to do.
I mean,
get on your bike or walk to the park, and then hopefully there'll be kids there.
Maybe something will happen.
But I can definitely like
So
the coming home from school and opening the door with my key if I had not lost it. And it was either you were going to plop yourself down in front of the TV and whatever was on, or I would like shoot baskets in the driveway, not
doom
to
shooting.
not to like because that was just the sort of like the little thing to do.
Yeah. Wow. This is a quick one. Did you feel bored at the time, or that it just was?
Yes.
I'll be honest, I felt bored when I didn't have, and I had like beginnings of I had the internet, but like it wasn't fast. And so I felt bored.
Yes.
I still feel bored sometimes when I go home.
I mean, don't you also feel bored like doom scrolling? I do.
Yeah.
I mean, life just contains.
There's no such thing as boring whatever. There's boring people, right? Like you have to get up and do something and make
Yeah,
something.
I mean, but there are like most human people's lives include periods of boredom.
Yeah. Hopefully.
And yeah, if they didn't, you would be insane.
Yeah.
So I wish that I had this book handy so I could nail the quote, but um, in a previous life, I was a photographer, and I did a book called Rough Beauty that was about a town in Texas. It was very kind of working poor kind of town and known as a Klan town, which is why I came to focus on it. And then I'd just go around photographing people and seeing who I met and talking to them, and I'd interview them. And there was a guy who I came to really appreciate and like a lot named Billy Hartman, who was kind of like a redneck philosopher. Like I think he didn't have an education beyond middle school, but he was wise. He was just wise, and he had this great quote. And when I was working on this book, I was married but didn't have kids yet, and so I was kind of really focused on like what people were doing around being parents and having kids and stuff. And he has this great quote that he said to me. He was in a very much like a redneck Brady Bunch house. Like he'd married a woman. They each had kids.
Wow.
There were like a million kids running around this place. It was kind of wild. Maybe I'll put a picture up from that place in the episode. And he has this fantastic quote about boredom. And he's like, you got to feed your kids boredom, because that's when they can think about the things you're teaching them.
Yeah.
And I think that is really wise. Like the boredom time is when your brain kind of goes places that maybe needs to go. Yeah. And I think that's super valuable. I think the loss of like entertainment is not a virtue. Boredom is not a fail.
Right.
Like
it's not a bad thing.
Things,
it's not inherently negative.
Right. I mean, it's
no, and the
too
fact
much
that
of it
you
is,
like
but
the fact that someone would have to I mean, the fact that has to be stated out loud, I think, is kind of an indictment of the current culture. Yeah. Like that, you have to say that as though it's counterintuitive, because just having time to reflect is super important.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here talking in the middle of this thing, and I'm holding my phone, even though I'm not using my phone. Like
we're broken
I get
people.
addicted to this stuff. Yes. But yes, I vote boredom, and it's and that's when you come up with creative stuff. Yeah. Like kids who go and are bored, and then they go and they start exploring, and then they're in the woods, and then they build something, and then they get bitten by something, and then they go running.
I still
and then
think that
it's a great moment.
I think Los Angeles is the most creative city because everybody is stuck in traffic all the time and they're bored. I came up with so many fun ideas because you'd just be sitting there, and then your brain goes in a loop. And then it keeps going, and then you explore in that direction a little bit more, and then in that direction. And I came up with some of my best ideas at that time, and it made me think maybe that's why people have such good ideas and such kind of out-of-the-box ideas there.
I mean, to be fair, it also contributes to the homicide rate. But, there is...
So it's good to be fair.
Yeah. There's
time to plan that murder person the next car.
There's good and bad to everything. Let's keep it going. Let's do one or two more of these,
okay.
And then we can let you go.
Next question. How did you job hunt before the internet?
So it depended. I mean, if you were looking for when you were looking for jobs in high school, you either went and just walked into places and said, "Hey, are you hiring?" But people used to use, and I can even remember my parents during periods when they were looking for jobs, you would use the newspaper, right? There were the help wanted. And I think even still, like in the 80s, when I came out of college, it wasn't the primary thing I was doing, but there were no internet job listings yet at that point. Like you would still look in the classified ads in the newspaper at one ads, and that's where you would find jobs.
I mean, weren't they? I mean, I would think, Arielle, that there were classified newspaper job listings that you might have experienced even in the early 2000s.
I think I remember seeing them, but it wouldn't have been my age that was looking for jobs there yet. I guess.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, I don't think internet job boards came in until like the 2000s.
Monster.
even.
But not just
Yeah.
internet job boards, also like I guess networks. Were your so say you knew you wanted to do something political. What was the first thing you did? You didn't look in the newspaper, right? You like asked friends, or you knew
Yeah,
somebody who knew
no,
somebody.
that was word of mouth, and it was also just it was also just showing up, right?
And you had to be physically somewhere, right?
Yeah,
Crazy.
you definitely had to be. But like people, I mean, colleagues of ours from the campaign in the White, and people who ended up with jobs in the White House just because they showed up in Manchester, New
Yeah.
Hampshire, and said, "Put me to work." And going back to
Stuck around.
the earlier conversation, like made sure to make themselves useful and noticeable, and
Yeah.
got hired on.
Wow.
My first semi-adult job, adulting, a term I think that you guys can claim credit for, which
I don't want
seems-
it.
I like it. I like that word.
Was a newspaper ad I answered where I called in, and it was for telemarketing. And as a 15-year-old, I got a job as a telemarketer, and the woman hired me because she said I had a good voice by phone, which is what they needed. And she was a DJ at a local radio station. And so I felt very complimented that a local DJ thought me, the 15-year-old, had a good phone voice.
Wow.
Which is also how Oprah got her start, by the way. So,
And from
then
speaking at church.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wait, you?
Oprah.
Oh, Oprah. Oh, yeah.
Not me.
Yes. Yeah.
Hadavar Hanachonde. That would be Jewish day school.
Yeah. So anyway. Yeah, those were the days. And you're still also kind of talking about networking. That's always about the first one. My first political job was because somebody knew somebody. My parents my mom had a former employee who was working for the guy I wanted to work for, so she introduced me to someone on the campaign.
Wow.
Even
I'm hearing some tapping.
and networking, like even for non-adulty kind of jobs, was, and I suspect still is, right? A bit like,
Yeah.
I was just thinking back, the jobs I had in high school were all because somebody
Like
else.
babysitting and stuff.
No.
is very
But even
networky.
like I got a job at Friendly's because my friend Andy Pinto was the manager, and I got a job at the supermarket because somebody else I knew was working there and said, "Hey, they're looking for more people. You should come in." And I
Yeah.
did, like that.
Right. That definitely still happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next, maybe last question.
Yep.
This has to do, okay, so the broad question is, did you actually use encyclopedias and dictionaries for homework? But really what I'm asking there is, if you didn't know something when you were having an argument or a conversation with a friend or a family member, did you just say, oh, I don't know?
Yeah, and you were just kind of screwed.
Okay.
Like, right?
Hey, it's my turn.
Sorry.
My turn, David.
He wants this one.
I know.
Go ahead. I'll follow.
No, I mean, I think that the latter one is like, on certain things, you would just kind of say, okay, well, we'll find that out someday, right? Like, I mean, like,
Agree to disagree? Like what?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think about now all the times that you're like, I mean, for me, like sitting with my son watching a baseball game, and something will come up and we're like, okay, well, that's a fact that we can look up, and one of us will pull up our phone and we'll look it up, and then we'll know it. Whereas, if I 40 years ago was in that same situation with my dad, we would say, oh yeah, that would be an interesting thing to know, and we would leave it there.
That's amazing.
And that's a way in which the internet, but like encyclopedias were great. I mean, certainly as a homework tool, but also then for me, like I would kind of doom scroll the encyclopedia a little bit, right? Like you're
Me too,
bored,
me
like
too.
you just pull it off, and there was always something in there to learn.
I was a big Guinness Book of World Records
Oh,
reader.
you can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an
Huge.
awesome one too.
Yeah, so in our house, it absolutely started with the encyclopedia, and we had a recent encyclopedia, but also my mom said that the 1913 encyclopedia was considered one of the best ones ever created, and we had a
Interesting.
complete set, which is still sitting at the house for the AI robot that's
Is
coming
it
to steal everything.
the Britannica or?
Yeah, I think so. And so that's still there, and of course, pretty out of date. But you would definitely look things up there, and then I think also you would buy reference books on topics that you might care about. So, like David mentioned, baseball and baseball for baseball nerds, like the statistics are paramount. So you could buy books like the Bill James Baseball Extract, where it was years and years of statistics. Wow. Up till the most recent one, and kind of in the same way. So you could determine historical stuff that you couldn't pull off the top of your head just by pulling out this one book on the topic that you cared about, or like same thing with, Billboard record charts and things like that. So yeah, and then the the Guinness book was, I think, a really essential publication for our generation. I'm intrigued that you
Costco.
Also were into it.
They sell it at Costco. I got it every year when it came out.
Oh, nice. Yes, and it's changed. Like I'm curious, when we were kids, Guinness was not focused on. It was black and white. It was not illustration focused,
right.
And it was very thick.
It was just a thing that you flip through, right? This now they make them like these huge.
There were illustrations,
coffee table books,
right? I mean, there was definitely I just always remember the picture of the guy with the fingernails.
Me too.
Yeah,
I always remember that too. He's been there forever.
Yeah,
the fattest twins, the McGrary brothers. Right. Yeah, so. And also Sam Green, the great filmmaker and childhood friend of mine, has done work, film about Guinness World Records. So that's something to look up. And he's doing an ongoing series on the world's oldest person, where he keeps
debunking blue zones. Is that him?
I don't know.
Have you heard about this?
I was talking about blue zones 2 hours ago. That is
well.
Really
I have
weird,
I've never. What is this? I don't know this.
A blue zone is supposedly pockets throughout the world where people on average live longer than in other places, but there's a lot of debunking going on now because they say that a lot of the record keeping has just been subpar. So sometimes we just don't know when people were born.
Right.
That's so interesting. Yeah, well, I love Guinness so much. That's what I want to end that thought on. Is Guinness Book of World Records is one of the great things in the history of world culture.
Agreed.
I'm going to end it on a less positive note of that. One. I mean, so the advantage of now having all of this information on this device in your pocket is obvious, right? That you've just got constant access to it. I do feel like the other option you had back in the day was, because it wasn't easy to find this information, there were people who put some effort into knowing lots of stuff, and people's memories were better. And so, you knew people who would I don't know when that movie came out, but James is definitely going to know that, right? And you could call James and he would know. So let's leave it on that downer. And before we let you go,
wait, I'm gonna hold on. I want to throw something out there. There's the sort of flip side of that is, I think that there's a beauty in not knowing things and in things just remaining mysterious that is lost now when everyone feels like anyone can figure out anything more or less. Yes. And so the world doesn't feel as magical. And when you don't understand things and you have to just let them be as they are, that can lead to abuse of things. But I also think there's something really nice in just letting things seem a little more magical.
The only way to do this nowadays is to go to a magic show. Have you been to a magic show lately?
I have, actually, yes.
I just watched one on Netflix. I'm sure I could look up how some of these things happen, but I really think it might just be magic.
Well, and there is who's I think it was Pete Holmes, the comedian, had this great bit that I heard about magic, and he's like, talking about the people who sit there and say, "No, it's fake. I can see you're doing." It's like, what's
Yeah.
wrong with you that
There's
you
two people
can't?
in the world.
Like he's like, what's wrong with you that you can't just experience the joy of seeing something amazing happen?
Yeah.
But I will say, like, and I generally agree with the lovely point that Dave made about maintaining mystery in the world, but like basic facts of like when you want to know where Ely de la Cruz played high school ball, it's nice to be able to just look up where Ely de la Cruz played high school ball, right? And there's no beauty in not knowing that.
Oh yeah.
It's also fun to have a thing that you decide you're going to know all about, internet or not. Like I memorized the counties of Mississippi. Why? Because I thought it would be fun. So I just like think everybody should have something like that. And then it kind of like helps you go to sleep at night too, because you can like the NATO alphabet is something I memorized recently because it's just fun to, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta.
All right.
David, how do we not mention libraries in the research process? Libraries were that was like the ultimate encyclopedia, and where you had a good chance of finding out something relatively quickly that you did not have in the encyclopedia at home.
Yes, and libraries are still awesome places. I am a frequent visitor to my local public library, and I am a fan of them as an institution. But before we wrap this up completely, Arielle, we did have one last question for you, which is, if someone of any generation likes this show, do you think it's appropriate for them to hit like, to subscribe, to follow on social media, check out our new Substack, which will be debuting soon? What do you think?
Yes, co-signed. They may do that.
Excellent.
All right. We've just bonded the generations. There will be no more vitriol.
There you go.
I will raise my avocado toast to that.
And I raised my latchkey or my key on a latch.
There you go.
Thank you, Arielle. You're a champ.
Thank you, guys. So fun.
The big game's tonight. How do you start them off right?
Ravioli. Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee.
She wants a treat, but what's good to eat?
Spaghetti and meatball. Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee.
Sure, they love it. And it's good for them, too, because we use the good ingredients you would, with no preservatives. Want to watch out for fats and things like that?
Beefaroni. Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee. Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee.
So we're back now. It's just us Gen Xers again, so we can breathe and not have to worry that we're offending anybody.
We can start trashing those millennials.
No, but I actually thought that the conversation with Arielle like sort of showcased our point that really, while there's these little differences about like not knowing the differences between a touch tone and a rotary dial phone, and not knowing what a latchkey is, like people are people across the generations, and we can find ways to understand each other and bridge these divides and heal the world.
Yeah, and I think it's really beautiful of you to use a Depeche Mode reference about healing the world. So bravo on that. No, your secret love for them is growing.
Not my intention there, but that's okay.
Yeah, and
intentions matter less than actions.
Is self-flagellation, is that the right word for self-abuse?
It's a word. I don't know where you're going here exactly, but
I think her questions for us were better than our questions for her. I thought they were more thoughtful. Like us just going after her with avocado toast. It was so fun. It was easy, and it led to a good conversation. But she was like, I thought she was really reflective and had collected a bunch of really interesting things. So bravo to Arielle for
I'm gonna defend us a little bit and just say that I think it's an easier task because there were like simple things that she seemed to not actually know factually that she could ask about. I don't know that there are corresponding things for a generation that is, younger than us, that we would have. We might be able to do that better when we bring in a boomer guest at some point and do this dialogue with them.
Yes, indeed. That makes sense. Well, yeah, she was great. It was there was a lot of interesting stuff. And, 9/11 was a really interesting part of the conversation where, of course, we all know it was life-changing for everyone in the world when it happened, and certainly for New Yorkers and everyone. But hearing the sort of really small details of that day from someone who lived through it as a kid was very interesting. And then of course the additional touch of the T-shirt, that was pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, that is. And I don't think I'd ever actually had that conversation with someone who was in elementary school specifically at that age before. But it was a huge, I mean, look, my kids and your kids were born after 9/11. For mine, certainly it's still an event that they're, very aware of and know as a big scary thing that happened in life and in the world. It was obviously a huge moment in history.
Yeah. We obviously have a podcast about Gen X, and so we are positioning ourselves as semi-experts, I suppose, even though I don't know. I don't know if we really are, but we lived through it, so that makes us somewhat expert. But
we're bold enough to talk about it, so that makes us experts. In that's how 2025 works, anyway.
Yeah, just declare yourself an expert, and you're an expert. So here we are.
Yeah.
And Latchkey and Latchkey Kids, like that was a term, but the fact that it is a ubiquitous Gen X reference point was kind of news to me at the when we started working on the show. Like I didn't know that, and now I know it intuitively. It comes up regularly. I'm ready for it. We can talk about it. It's funny. It's interesting. We've got stories, but I didn't know that was a thing about our generation really until now.
All right. Well, so Dave, you've learned, you've grown. We've all become better people here.
Yes. And speaking of learning and growing and becoming better people, it's Wormholes time. And as always,
right.
Yeah, this is a segment where we take a few minutes to share something where we've gone down the proverbial wormhole/rabbit hole. I'm not so self-conscious about the language being incorrect, but we're going to just we're keeping with that wormhole thing to learn something new or discover something we like or just have something to get off our chest. And we even have a theme song to kick it off.
A very great theme song, so let's play it now. Sorry, I was headbanging.
I'm leaving that in. Then I'll start it. Okay. All right. So
it is my turn to go first, I believe.
Yeah,
and
you're supposed to wormhole like it's 1999.
Yeah, well, so Dave, we're going to do a little choose your adventure thing here. I have two wormholes prepared, and I'm going to let you choose. I have on the one hand a little bit of a angry discussion of an aspect of contemporary life. On the other, I have just a little story of a proud parental moment with some cultural interest to it that I can recount. And which one of those would you like to hear?
Well, I mean, the decent thing would be to encourage your parental moment, but the contrarian thing would be like go with your anger. And I'm really struggling with this because I kind of want to do both.
I mean, I've got two prepared, and we've got other episodes coming up, so you're probably going to hear them both at some point. So.
Okay, go with your anger. Go with your anger.
All right. So the anger thing is, I learned this week through a very good article in the Atlantic magazine about something called the National Consumer Rage Survey, which is a survey that some faculty members at Arizona State do in partnership with some consulting firm. And right, just the fact that the fact that we need to have something called the National Consumer Rage Survey by itself says, tells a story about where we're at as an economy.
I mean, that's a wormhole right
it,
there. That's great. You can
yeah, 74% of consumers in the most recent survey reported experiencing a product or service problem in the last year. It's the highest it's been over the 20 years since the survey has been conducted. Some 63% felt rage about their problem, to a point where it affects your overall well-being. And 43% of all American consumers yelled or raised their voice at some point in the last year to express displeasure about a problem with a consumer company. And the story in the Atlantic, I wish I had the author's name at my fingertips, about how basically companies have more and more deliberately made it hard to access good customer service.
That's been going on for a while.
But it's right that it's not just like, oh, they can't afford to have enough people answering the phone. It's no, they've figured out that if they reduce the number of people answering the phone, they'll reduce the amount that they need to spend out in fixing problems for people, because everybody will just get frustrated and hang up. And, consumer rage, man, it's a thing.
I have a business idea over this. We'll talk about it offline. I don't want to give it away on the air. Like I've given away all my hometown information.
Make all our listeners sign an NDA. We'll go for it.
That's a great one. That hats off. You already have won, but it reminds me of this genius article that's one of my all-time favorite Onion articles, and it came out in the late 90s, and I don't know if I'm exactly quoting it right, but it's it was poll 87% of all Americans, quote, can't believe this shit. And then it goes into in their AP styled writing, it's like 78, in a breakout of the polling, the shit credulity index has reached an all-time high, and 57% say, this shit is ridiculous, and then 23% believe that this shit is out of control. So that is a brilliant Onion moment. All right.
The Onion is a cultural touchstone we ought to focus on at some point on this program.
Ooh, that's a good one. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a wormhole party because a wormhole party don't stop. And mine is the following. Okay, so had a road trip this past week, seeing old friends. Our guest, Brandon Schmidt, he and I were hanging out at record stores in Chicago and then went to Michigan. And then on my way back from Michigan to Arkansas, I stopped. I bopped into Cincinnati and saw my friend David, who I mentioned earlier in the show. And he and I also went to a record store. And in the record store we went to
Is this going to be about the album cover that you texted me?
No, that's not safe for podcasting.
All right, good.
But it was at that record store where I got into a conversation with one of the guys working there, and it was a very high fidelity kind of record store. And we got talking about the Smiths. I have a prized signed 45 of How Soon Is Now. Johnny Marr signed one side, Morrissey signed the other.
Nice.
I was led to believe that they wouldn't even sign on the same side. They so disliked each other. I don't know if that's true.
That seems entirely credible, certainly.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what I learned. So, and then I passed this information on to Brandon, our former guest, who's got a record store and who knows a lot about the Smiths. And so I told him this thing that I learned, and he didn't know. So I'm like, oh, wow, I gave Brandon new Smiths information. So here it is. For Smiths fans, and we're like losing non-Smiths fans, which could be the vast majority.
Well, I got to think most of our listeners are Smiths fans.
Okay, yes, let's hope that that is true. And either way, it's interesting. So the Smiths have this guy first told me that there was a band he asked if we knew called Orange Juice. Do you know that band?
No.
Yeah, does not. I had never heard of them. And he said, well, actually, Orange Juice was a big deal in the early 80s, and the Smiths, Johnny Marr and Morrissey, loved them. This is what the guy is telling me. And really, the Smiths borrowed their sound or it was a very influential band in the development of the Smiths sound. And I really thought the Smiths sounded unique, and it would if you asked me who they based their sound off of, I wouldn't have been able to name any bands. And now Brandon could, but so, and also he told me that William, It Was Really Nothing was basically a song about or to the lead singer of Orange Juice, who he had there was kind of chemistry, according to the clerk.
Yeah.
There was chemistry, but nothing happened. So anyway, this is what I reported to Brandon. It was news to Brandon. Then last night I wormholed it, and turned out he was wrong a little bit. It was true that there was a bit of a thing between him and another singer. And the other thing he told me is that it had resulted in a song called Stephen, It Really Was Something from Orange Juice, which is interesting. It's an answer song, just like a rap battle, but with Morrissey, So, and with, affection. Well, as I was thinking about doing it for our wormhole, and I'm like, I better double check all this. And turns out the guy was wrong. It was not Orange Juice where the crush happened. But Orange Juice has one other thing that I'll mention, which is their lead singer was named Edwyn Collins, who then had a solo hit called A Girl Like You, which I love. Do you know that song?
I do remember that song.
Yeah, and so, but it turns out there was no love lost between Morrissey and Edwyn Collins. In fact, they seem to
The
not
song I'm
like
thinking of is the Smithereens a cover of the Edward Collins song, or
I don't know.
or are they different songs?
I
don't
only
know
the Edwyn Collins song by that name. I don't know anything about Smithereens covers or whether it's the same thing, but
to win the love of a girl like you. Is that it?
No, that is not it.
No. Okay.
I'm not singing it because I'm too self-conscious about my singing, but it sounds very different. Never knew a girl like you before is kind of
okay.
So, okay, but this did all happen so it turns out the influence of Orange Juice on the Smiths is true. There was definitely influence and jangly guitars and things that were done before the Smiths that clearly influenced them. But also the Associates, which was a minor British indie act, I guess, of the late 70s and 80s, with a lead singer named, I think, Billy Mackenzie, was a thing where Morrissey and Billy Mackenzie did have some chemistry, and the Associates released that song, Stephen, which is Morrissey's first name, and William was supposedly the middle name of Edwyn Collins, but really the middle name of Billy Mackenzie, or the whatever. So they're all sort of a little bit veiled, but it was real. This song, it was about someone, and the Smith song was about someone, and then there was an answer song, and the answer song is terrible. It's just not good at all. So you can look it up just out of interest if you care about all these things. But William, It Was Really Nothing is top 500 all time song.
It's a terrific song. I will say this all is bringing up a point that I wish I had made when Arielle was on her question about, like, without the internet, what did you do when you didn't know something? Which is that, right? Like, oftentimes you would end up just believing whoever seemed to have an answer and was like an authoritative seeming record store clerk and might be totally full of shit.
Yes, that is true. I'm like, as an adult, I'm still recovering from truisms that were bullshit way back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Okay, so
That brings us to the wrap up portion of our show, where we make the big and sometimes earth-shattering announcement about what the next episode will feature. Careful followers of the podcast, and I assume that's everyone, will note that every other show recently has been an installment in our year-by-year review of the formative years of Gen X. The last one we did was in 1977, so I'm going to go out on a limb here and predict that the next one will be 1978.
that is a very safe assumption, assuming we are dependable people, which I think we are dependable people, don't you, David?
We're pretty reliable, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially you. You've got that Midwestern stolidity to you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's very nice. Do you retain that when you move to the South?
I hope so. You have.
Okay.
So
good.
there you go.
Yay for that. Thank you. Okay, so 1978, that was a year when serial killers were big news, when Garfield made his debut in the nation's newspapers, and Olivia Newton-John wore that leather outfit at the end of Grease that introduced young Gen X to some new ideas. And we will be talking about some of these things and so much more, so don't miss it.
Thank you all for being with us, and goodbye.
And good luck.